Committee for October the 10th. Hope everyone had a enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend and is ready for another week. I'd like to invite our regional clerk, Will Short, to conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Deutschman. Chair Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Hunink.
Present.
Councillor James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett. Councillor McCabe.
Present.
Councillor Nowak. Councillor Solonen. Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Verbenovich.
Present.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Wolf.
Present.
And Councillor Harris will be joining us in a little bit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Short. As we begin this meeting, we are again reminded that Waterloo region is situated on treaty land that is steeped in a rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We further acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe and Neutral people. We recognize the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community, and offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? We have no presentations. We have one delegation today, which I think is going to be virtual, if I'm not mistaken, and just want to remind the delegation that if you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate disconnect from the meeting. Interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others, turning your camera on at inappropriate times, and hate speech or defamatory comments. And one last reminder for delegations, please do not take offense if following your presentation there are no questions from council. This is council's time to listen and reflect upon the opinions and ideas shared with whom and the community members. Okay, apparently our delegation is not here in person or online, and so we'll continue on with the agenda and see if she appears before the end of our meeting. The consent agenda. If you wish to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions on consent items unless items are requested to be removed to the regular agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda will be dealt with in one motion. Are there any items that you wish removed? And do we have a mover and a seconder to approve the consent report under item 6? Moved by Councillor Wolf, seconded by Councillor Nowak. Use your e-scribe buttons to vote, please. Yeah.
Sorry, you don't have e-scribe functioning yet.
And it didn't show up on mine, but I'm in favor.
Thank you. That's carried. On to item 6.1, strategic priority on a resilient and future-ready organization. It's a report from the Waterloo Regional Respiratory Pathogen Report. Are there any questions or comments on that? Oh, we just approved that on consent. I'm sorry. On to the regular agenda. Are there any items on the, there are no items on the regular agenda. Anything, there's no council tracking information. I'm not used to this, this agenda going so fast here, folks. Is there any other business? So our next meeting is November the 7th, 23. I'd ask for a vote to adjourn the meeting. Moved by? Oh, our delegation just showed up? Online or in person?
In person. She's walking in.
Okay, okay. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Hi. welcome. If you want to make your way to the podium.
Testing.
Yeah. Now, Heather, normally you have 5 minutes for your, as a delegate. We received a video from you yesterday.
Yes.
Which is almost 5 minutes in length in itself. So
That's just for you to review.
So it's not going to be part of the presentation this morning?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Proceed then, please.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Heather Majuri, and it is my belief that all human beings deserve dignity and respect by virtue of simply being human. It is our shared responsibility in this life to reduce human suffering and that all people deserve justice. No one should become sick and die just because of who they are and where they live. Our access to adequate housing is a major social determinant of health. It is not surprising that being without housing can be dangerous to our health. The United Nations states we need to tailor our housing laws and policies to those most in need, rather than merely targeting majority groups. This should, in theory, trickle down to municipalities. It is not something only considered as the isolated purview of higher levels of government. I rented a van to help residents of Soper Park in Cambridge, Ontario, flee their campsites under threat of arrest during a forced eviction on September 26th and 27th of this year. Using my cell phone, I made a short collage video, which I submitted as support material. The man in the video is Brian Kitchen. He spoke to council on September 27th. Forced evictions are defined as the permanent or temporary removal against the will of individuals, families, or communities from the homes and/or lands which they occupy, without the provision of and access to appropriate forms of legal or other protection. Evictions, which are the result of social patterns, societal patterns of discrimination against people who are economically challenged or who are struggling with various health problems, should not be tolerated, encouraged, or allowed in our region. The right to adequate housing is broader than the right to own property, as it addresses rights not related to ownership and is intended to ensure that everyone has a safe and secure place to live in peace and dignity, including non-owners of property. Security of tenure, the cornerstone of the right to adequate housing, can take a variety of forms, including rental accommodation, cooperative housing, lease, owner occupation, emergency housing, or even informal settlements. When reading the National Protocol for Homeless Encampments in Canada, I perceive failure in our local government to interact with encampments in a manner that upholds their human rights. I want to draw your attention to two principles that our municipalities in our region must take seriously if we wish to live up to our responsibilities. The first principle is to recognize residents of homeless encampments as rights holders. All government action with respect to homeless encampments must be guided by a commitment to upholding the human rights and human dignity of their residents. This means a shift away from criminalizing, penalizing, or obstructing homeless encampments to an approach rooted in rights-based participation and accountability. The right to participate requires that all residents be provided with information, resources, and opportunities to directly influence decisions that affect them. From my interaction with residents that I helped move from Soper Park, I did not get a sense that this occurred. Although I commend the behavior and support provided by the many frontline and outreach workers mitigating damage on this day. Another principle I want to draw your attention to is the prohibition of forced evictions of homeless encampments. International human rights law does not permit governments to destroy people's homes, even if those homes are made of improvised materials. and established without legal authority. Governments may not remove residents from encampments without meaningfully engaging with them and identifying alternative places to live that are acceptable to them.
Heather, sorry to interrupt, but
I have another minute.
Another minute.
At the most.
Thank you.
And any such removal from their homes or from the land which they occupy without the provision of appropriate forms of legal protection is defined as forced eviction and is considered a gross violation of human rights. The removal of residents' private property without their knowledge and consent is also strictly prohibited. It is clear from what I observed at Soper Park that the municipality of Cambridge was not respectful to these standards. In an eviction, if an eviction is to occur, identified relocation sites must fulfill the criteria for adequate housing according to international law. I can assure you this did not happen in this circumstance. This also happened on the heels of the region claiming that the closure of the encampment at 150 Main was also voluntary. The people I spoke with who fled that location and moved to Soper Park do not confirm voluntarily leaving. Thank you for your time. I'm very willing to answer any questions you might have about what I learned while supporting these folks in avoiding arrest for being homeless and being criminalized for simply being without housing in our region.
Thanks, Heather, for delegating.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of Heather? Thank you. So we've dealt with everything on the agenda, and we are now looking for a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor James. And use your buttons on the vote. That is carried. Thank you. So we need a few minutes. So for Councillor James and Councillor Harris, the bar has been set for